food manufacturing companies about the additives and what all they put in their food, and whether that's healthy for us or not, and to what extent that the U.S. government should take action on this. I will say this. I've said this generally, and I found agreement almost. I don't know how you prove this. Maybe the RFK Jr. will institute studies that can prove some of this. But I've often thought that because of all the additives in our diet, for the average American, there are people maybe who don't. There are a lot of there's some people who are all natural, organic, this and free range that. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And God bless them.
Right.
If you can live like that, God bless you. But most people can't, or don't, or won't. So, but I've often thought all this stuff does lead to more cancer. But I can't prove that. But that's just I just think all this stuff that we put in our bodies on a regular basis probably leads to bad things happening in your body over time.
Fred said these chemicals have to go somewhere. They're artificial. How does the body deal with them? And let me just toss this one other thing in. We already have submitted, let me just put it this way. We've already submitted as a people to a system where the Food and Drug Administration already regulates food. Okay, so we can't say this is not a new thing.
That is true.
We already do that. I on Facebook hear people complaining that the FDA won't let people drink or sell
moonshine,
milk, raw milk.
Milk. Okay.
Raw milk. They say it has to be pasteurized, and the people say, well, that doesn't make any sense. People have been drinking milk for centuries and millennia, so there's this clash in our culture between we want our food safely regulated so we can have a recall when we find out there's listeria in this, and at the same time we do want to make some of our own personal decisions.
Right.
How much room do we give the government?
I do think overall RFK Jr.'s perspective on things, which is non-conventional, and he's outside the norm. He's outside the industry, if you will. I'm ready to hear what he has to say.
I am too.
And let him challenge some of these conventional ideas we've had about food manufacturing.
Good, because major corporations, this is part of what they do. I don't think they're bad guys for doing this. They want to maximize their profits.
Right.
So they're going to find cheaper ways to get food that people will eat and therefore buy. Okay? But that doesn't always mean that they are going to have our health as their first concern. In fact, it's not their first concern. It's making money.
Yeah.
So somebody may have to broker a deal between the consumer and the manufacturer, and that could be RFK Jr.
You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Monday, March the 10th, 2025. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Fred, what's your next story?
Well, this story comes with a warning. And the warning is over the next several weeks, in fact, it has started already in the mainstream media. All the cuts that are being made by Doge, Elon Musk and team, they're identifying areas that could be cut, and these various departments, the whole spectrum of federal government departments, are starting to cut jobs. You're going to start hearing, for instance, you're not going to get your Social Security check. Or if you're on Medicaid, they're going to cut Medicaid. All of these things. One of the latest examples is Veteran Affairs. You've probably heard, maybe even this weekend, that they have started to do job cuts within Veteran Affairs. And you're hearing in the mainstream media, it's terrible. There are veterans that are working for Veteran Affairs and they're losing their jobs, etc., etc. Well, the Secretary of Veteran Affairs is former Congressman Doug Collins. He responded to all of these accusations this morning. Very interesting. Have a listen to this, cut number 11.
Government has decided to do lately is put money or people in something. Then maybe we need to ask the better question is are we using our resources wisely and making sure that our department is taking care of the veteran, which is our only responsibility.
Now, you may remember over the last several years, there have, with the number of employees that the VA has had, we've heard horror stories.
Right.
of how veterans were being treated, and basically not being treated for diseases. What Doug Collins is saying, we're going to put the treatment of the veterans at first, and if we don't need a big bureaucracy to run the place, which is starting to become a common thing that they're talking about, where the cuts need to be made. We don't need 10 managers for every frontline worker. And so what he's saying is we're going to start putting the care of the veterans out there first, ahead of having a huge bureaucracy.
Yeah, and I think bureaucracy is becoming clear that the bureaucracies are part of the problem. The education bureaucracy, for example, in most states, half the budget goes to administration.
Yes.
And so people say, well, how come we're not paying our teachers more? Well, the money is, half of it's being swallowed up by in the opinion of a lot of people, bloated bureaucracy, the administration of a particular department. And so you're not anti-education if you're looking at the Department of Education. You are looking at how the money is being spent. Is there a better way to spend the money on the thing that most people think it's going for? Educating students, or in this case, treating our veterans. Listen, it comes down to cities and states too. We all read the horror stories of veterans who were being put up at hotels in New York City, being bumped because the federal government was paying those hotels more money to house illegal immigrants. So the veterans oftentimes get pushed to the bottom of the barrel. They're most retired. A lot of them are retired that are using the VA facilities, and they're kind of been shunted, pushed to the side. And so I'd like to see this come to pass, where if we're going to cut, the cuts should come to the bloated bureaucracy and let more money go to the vets.
Well, and add to this, there's so many Doge stories right now, but here's a headline from the weekend. Doge says $312 million in loans were given to children during the COVID pandemic.
Even under age 11.
Even under age 11. Checks written to little kids.
How does that happen?
Well, because
Did their parents apply for it using their kids as
that's what it sounds like.
the fraud I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, big time fraud.
The amount, when this thing is finished, and they
You mean the audit of COVID?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying the Doge
Doge, okay.
check of the federal bureaucracy. We are going to, I think we're going to find hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that were stolen, wasted. We don't know where it went. And when you have that much money, it's free money to these people in D.C. I think we're going to find that family members were getting, we hear about all these organizations that were created in the final months of the Biden administration. Then they got big federal contracts.
Yes.
We're going to find out just how corrupt D.C. Has been, Republican and Democratic administrations.
So what was that? What again, repeat that story, if you would. This is Doge?
Yes, this is
Elon Musk, Department of Government Efficiency.
That's right.
Okay.
Just one of the things they found.
Yeah, they found out what?
They're finding out that checks totaling $312 million were given to children during the COVID pandemic.
So this must be, we remember that the federal government was giving loans to companies to meet payroll.
That's right.
Or to continue the business operations because these companies were forced to shut down or partially lock down. And so these were loans that were given. So it sounds
That
like
were
parents,
given and forgiven, right?
they were in many cases given and then forgiven. It sounds like some parents were saying, well, my kid has I'm making this up, but a lemonade stand business. I want $1 million loan for my, whatever, $45,000 loan for my kid's lemonade stand business that she had to shut down because of lockdowns. And it looks like they were giving them out.
Well, my favorite senator, John Kennedy of Louisiana.
He's a lot of people's favorite.
Kind of wraps it up very nicely where we are with this, cut number 3.
The Democrats are mad at people who have found wasted taxpayer money, but they're not mad at the people who are wasting it.
That's the bottom line in all of this.
Yeah. I also think, my own personal opinion, and again, this is a Republican I'm sure it's a Republican problem and a Democratic problem. I think some of this anger coming from the Democratic Party, I think, is because they don't want the American people to find out how the Congress has been spending money.
Yes.
And they don't want to see that their pet projects, you know, the one that the government was spending money to create transgender mice, that will go down, in my mind, as one of the worst examples of government waste. The Democrats don't want people finding out how they gamed the system during the Biden administration, especially.
Yeah. Well, there's the music.
You got time to wax eloquent if you can do it in 60
What
seconds.
was I going to say? Forgot what I was going to say. Let me walk over there and come back.
Reset. Yeah.
Walk back over
Go
there.
into the kitchen and come
Go
back.
to the kitchen.
You'll remember.
Come back and then I'll remember what I was going to say. Well, no, I know what I was going to say. What Elon Musk is doing through the Department of Government Efficiency, basically he's doing a much needed audit of all the federal government agencies. And I've never heard of such. And it's been long overdue, so that we can at least know, American people can know what our tax dollars are going for with respect to all these three-letter agencies that are out there basically running our lives. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
State employee, you have the opportunity to support the American Family Association through the combined federal campaign by designating a monthly payroll deduction using 12037. You help AFA continue to fight for your family. So when you complete your CFC form, remember, AFA's number is 12037.